Good morning, Cherries fans. It's Monday, and over the weekend, AFC Bournemouth capitulated at the Amex against Brighton and Hove Albion. With me is Mr. Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how's it going?
Bit raw today.
Yeah, very much so. It was a day to forget in Brighton, wasn't it?
Very dark day. We didn't play well at all from the first minute to the last minute, which is very disappointing.
I've tried to not get involved too much in conversations online. I've merely been sort of echoing what other people have said. However, reading some of the fallout over Twitter and over Facebook, people very unhappy, and Eddie Howe's in the firing line quite a lot. What's your opinion on what happened yesterday? Can you put it down to anything?
There are obviously excuses. We played really well against Arsenal. The team upped their game, particularly after the disappointing way in which they lost to Burnley a few days previously. It was a tough game. I think it took a lot out of the players physically. You could see that some of the players who did play again yesterday were off it. They were obviously tired physically. I think playing games on that ridiculous schedule is just, for a squad so decimated by injuries as our one isn't great. However, saying that, there were a lot of players rested as well. We missed Jefferson Lerma massively, and it felt like we were just undercooked yesterday. Not sure what the preparation was like. Felt like we hadn't really done our homework on Brighton, who, in my view, play much more like Chelsea than Burnley. Therefore, why we didn't go back to 4-5-1, why we went for 4-4-2, seemed beyond me. Aaron Mooy has been their star player of the year so far. He plays in between the lines, and again, it just seemed like we hadn't done our homework. If you stop Mooy, you'd stop their creativity in midfield. We didn't bother from the first minute to the last, and that, I think, was tactically naive of us, and compounded by the formation that we played before we even get to the individual performances. That was the most worrying aspect of the game.
Yeah, a number of players I think looked very pedestrian, very lethargic, one of which has come into the firing line quite a lot, but we'll go on to individual performances, as you say, a bit later on. But Brighton seemed to be first to every 50-50. They weren't flat-footed. They were physical. They put their bodies on the line, and they were superior in nearly every single department. It's really worrying times, and a time where we need to be galvanising. It's just not happening. At Chelsea we saw it, and then we thought we could follow it up against Burnley. Starting to wonder whether it's a mental thing, because we're managing to pick up results against the big teams, case in point United, Chelsea, Arsenal, play the teams we should beat, and then we're getting rolled over.
The inconsistency is consistent.
yeah, very much.
That's pretty much all you can say.
Yeah.
Win against Chelsea, superb performance. Lose against Burnley, poor. Draw against Arsenal, should have won, arguably.
Yeah.
Great performance. Don't turn up against Brighton. So if that format keeps going, we'll probably do well against West Ham, and I forget who we've got after that. But we've got a run against beatable teams that are going to define us. And if ever there was a time for a consistency of performance and a consistency of attitude, as well as energy and togetherness, these next 5 or 6 games, I mean, these are it. Brighton were up for it because they saw the game they saw it as a 6-pointer. Why didn't we? We should have been thinking, this is our cup final. This matters, and that was also really disappointing, that the players just felt, you know what, we'll just rock up and we might get something, and the sloppiness from start to finish was just so depressing to watch.
Yeah, it really was. So we started off with the back five that we expected. Of course, Simpson making way for Diego Rico. In midfield, I mean, of course, AFC Bournemouth launched their graphic and you're thinking, what formation's he playing? So Harry Wilson, Philip Billing, Dan Gosling, a return for Junior Stanislas on the other side as well. And then Solanke and King up front. What did you make of the lineup when you saw it?
I was encouraged that Stanislas was in the team.
Yeah, me too.
Let's be positive. That I think is a good thing, and he's a player that we've missed. He had to get a run out sooner or later. I thought they might hold him back for the cup game against Luton, but he got a start, and injuries and tiredness probably played a part in that. What else? Billing and Gosling didn't work. I thought that it was wrong to play Solanke with King.
Yeah.
Solanke should have been on the bench and come on for King, as he did against Chelsea. We should have played Lewis Cook instead, I thought, or even Andrew Sermon, in view of the fact that there was so little defensive cover. Both Billing and Gosling, as it turned out, wanted to play attacking football. Harry Wilson is obviously, as we know, good at going forwards, but not great at the back. And it panned out pretty horribly.
Yeah, they scored so early on, and I thought that was the worst thing that could possibly happen because, like you say, Brighton are a bit more Chelsea, and credit to Graham Potter who's got them playing really well this season. They were never going to be a team that would park the bus like Burnley, but then once they did score their first, then I thought, well, they have licence to do that if they want to. But, I mean, to their credit, they didn't. They came out and attacked us, and there were seldom occasions where we went forward and managed to carve open chances, but once again such a lack of a clinicalness up front, and I just don't know where to begin. But the first person I've got to look at, not that I want to make him a scapegoat, is Philip Billing, who I thought yesterday had a poor game.
He didn't look like he wanted to be on the pitch, and I was reflecting on Philip Billing earlier today, wondering what is actually going on in his head at the moment. He can play well. He played well against Chelsea, but I don't think he's got the defensive discipline or reads the game particularly well, either going forward or defensively, to be left as the sole defensive midfield player. He was caught upfield so many times yesterday, either misplacing a pass, not knowing what to do with it, so you kind of think, well, he's not a creative player, so he shouldn't be that far forward. He defensively was out of position. I think you could say that he was at fault for that first goal, albeit we gift the ball away in their half and they counter-attack on us, but there's no one marking Mooy when he picks up the ball and plays it through, and then he's chasing back and nobody closes down the Iranian player whose name I can't pronounce, so gets a free shot off, and it was so sort of the antithesis of when we're playing well and people do put their bodies on the line. That kind of attitude sort of was endemic, and not just Philip Billing, I thought throughout the team. The number of misplaced passes yesterday, we had a pass completion rate I read of 1 in 5, which is appalling.
That's terrible.
It's appalling. And Rico gives the ball away for their first goal. The number of times we gifted them possession. Steve Cook in the first minute, even before they scored, just gets the ball, routine ball out to Stacey, just whacks it out, totally mistimes it out of touch, and you just think, geez, come on, just got to pass it to each other. You're not going to win anything unless you can pass to each other. And one of the strengths of our team, as we demonstrated against Chelsea, was good, quick, accurate passing.
Yeah.
The bigger problem with Philip Billing is that he slows it down. He takes 2 or 3 touches every time. He's incapable of playing a first-time ball, so you don't want him as that creative engine up front. That is where you want Harry Wilson, playing at the top of a diamond in midfield rather than stuck out on that right wing where he had one shot that got deflected. He created a good opportunity for Solanke in the second half. where else was that creativity coming from?
Yeah, I mean there wasn't, and I just would really. I've said it so many times. I'd love to see Harry Wilson playing in that number 10 position, but Eddie's put him where he is, and his stubbornness is well, it's leading to results like this. As you say, Philip Billing, I thought, yeah, very pedestrian at times and slowing the game down big time and trying to have a counter-attack at speed, and we just missed Jefferson Lerma. We really missed him, and I know that he played his heart out on Boxing Day against Arsenal and apparently wasn't used because of a hamstring injury. Why is he named on the bench if he's not going to be used? What's the point in that? Because fans were crying out for Jefferson Lerma from sort of midway through the first half and most of the second half, but he makes baffling decisions when he brings on Lewis Cook. Instead, I mean, Lewis Cook, I don't want to diss him or whatever. He's a good player. He's creative, but he wasn't the type of player that we needed at the time. And Philip Billing should have been the man that was replaced. He wasn't. How he played that amount of minutes, I don't know. And then, we were Lerma-less. And why is he even putting him on the bench if he's not going to use him?
I don't know. The manager is right to be stubborn. I mean, we shouldn't underestimate what a tough job it is managing a Premiership side. Social media, what we talk about, what all the pundits talk about. There's a lot of pressure in the Premier League. As soon as you lose one game, the sack is being called for. I cannot possibly imagine what it's like for Eddie as a manager of the club going through tough times as we are. It's not all sweetness and light. He's under a lot of pressure, and I think part of his DNA that's got him to where he's got to is a belief that he's in the right. The difficulty comes when it's clear, and you talk to every Bournemouth fan who was at that game yesterday, and we talked to a number. I know you interviewed a number afterwards. They were all of the same opinion. What is Billing doing in central midfield without Jefferson Lerma? We're half the side, and we certainly had no protection for that back four whatsoever. Okay, he's injured, in which case play a defensive midfielder. Andrew Sermon's on the bench. You've got two defensive midfielders on the bench. Yeah. Play Sermon and keep Billing on the pitch if you like, but you can't just leave him as the sole defensive midfielder because he's not that player. And that also, I felt, compromised what Gosling was doing, because Gosling, you could see they were talking to each other through the game, moaning at each other quite a bit as well. You should be there, not there, and you should be doing this. And Gosling, I felt, was trying to do the job of two people because he felt he had to cover for Billing not doing what he was being asked to do. And it just felt that there were those little disagreements going on all over the pitch, and what that makes you think is tactically we weren't set up right. The players didn't really understand the system that they were meant to be playing. It certainly didn't gel on the pitch. Result, we get comfortably beaten 2-0. Could have been 3, could have been 4.
And VAR saved our bacon on a number of occasions, although I don't know if you've seen it back yet, but obviously VAR this weekend I think has been one of the worst for VAR. The Liverpool-Wolves match has just finished. I didn't watch it, but I've just been reading some of the fallout, and apparently it was an absolute state in the first half. Did you watch any of that game?
I saw the first half, and there was a Lallana handball that would have been called a handball 95 times out of 100, I think, and the ref watched it on VAR and actually changed his mind and gave the goal, which I thought was bizarre. And the second one was just like the one we had yesterday. It was an offside from a free kick where the hand is offside, and Graham Souness rightly points out, what is the point of a part of the body that can't even be used to score being offside? It's ridiculous.
It's terrible. And obviously we went through our own it favoured us a couple of times yesterday. They made it 2-0 and then it was ruled out. Did you watch it back? Because I think Alan Smith on Sky Sports was saying it should have been allowed.
Yeah, well, it was a hand offside or a toe or something. It was a body part. It was one of those. And the rules being the rules of VAR, that's offside. So, yeah, it was a fair decision. But the way that VAR is being used is completely atrocious, I think, because you had that decision, which consistently they've been calling that offside, so they called it offside. Okay, fine with that. Then Solanke gets brought down. Dunk doesn't actually make any connection with the ball, and the ref goes to VAR and they play on. And frankly, you've got to touch a bit of the ball to make a tackle, haven't you?
Ideally, yeah.
that is clear and obvious, and that baffles me that a decision like that doesn't get overturned, which is less marginal than the offside, arguably. It makes no sense, and it's a shocking day. I thought the Wolves-Man City game the other day was also shocking for VAR with the encroachment. And I read a very good comment, which I must agree with. Somebody said on social media, VAR is absolutely the right thing. However, we didn't account for the incompetent people managing it.
Yeah, of course. 100%. And we're seeing it week after week now. And I believe there is some kind of meeting that's going to be taking place where they're going to iron out these issues, because there needs to be more clarity. Fans are not being informed in the stadium. There are lots of ways it can be improved. I thought that the Premier League would adopt VAR and make it a very streamlined system where fans were kept in the know, and it's just not working out that way. But Brighton did get their second goal, of course, and worthy scorer and man of the match, Aaron Mooy. I thought he was absolutely superb, was really good for Huddersfield and deserved that goal, and it didn't flatter them.
It did not flatter them one bit. Things to say about that goal: Stacey was injured by that point and was hobbling on one foot, so couldn't do anything about getting closer to his man for the cross. However, there were still 7 people in behind that ball when it came in. We had 7 defenders between Mooy and the goal, but yet he has acres of space, and that's part of the problem with yesterday. I think both Mepham and Cook were too loose on their strikers, so we gave them far too much time to pick up the ball and turn. There was no defender in the back of a striker when he collected the ball. Mepham should have been on Mooy when he receives that, not even allow him to turn. Just be in his back, don't let him turn. Instead he's 2 yards off him, allows him to turn, and is beaten by a good bit of skill, but it was sloppy. If I'm honest, I thought we'd actually given up on the game from minute 3. We didn't really bother. I didn't think. We thought, okay, we're going to lose this, so let's just conserve a bit of energy for the next game. That's what it felt like, which is a terrible admission, I think, for a game like that.
Yeah, we had an email from Richard Jackson who put his thoughts into words, and he said it was another disappointing result and performance yesterday, so where do we go from here? He went on to say that probably like many others, the injuries have certainly had a big impact, as we know, but the results over the last 12 months, despite the injuries, have, they don't lie. And any analysis of that time period will show that since Fulham away last season, we have been on relegation form. He says to be optimistic. The good news is that there's still 18 games left, so no need to panic yet. However, there are some things that are worthy of consideration. One of which are the characters on the pitch. Are we lacking leaders? I mean, I know Steve Cook was obviously disappointed. Seeing his interview on AFCB.co.uk, I thought was really good, because he looked visibly upset. He said the right things, and he said, we deserve criticism. We are men, we can take it, but we all need to come together and unite for the West Ham game. But he was distraught by that performance, and I felt from a bit. But aside from Cookie, you're kind of looking around thinking, who else is there to G up the players? And there's no one on that pitch that seemed to give a damn.
We missed Francis yesterday. Didn't think we'd be saying that a few games ago, but
no, not at all.
We missed his leadership, and I'm hoping that he's going to be back in for the West Ham game. We need a right back to replace Stacey. It should be Frano, and maybe that will help. We're mentally fragile. That's what we are. The games that are physically demanding, I think, also the injury crisis. Eddie mentioned it as well about feeling sorry for ourselves, and there was an element of that, I think, yesterday. We have to get the best out of the players that we've got. We have to get the best system. And I thought when the Chelsea game happened that we'd figured that out. I thought Arsenal was again a bit of a turning point. Fraser had a really good game. Mepham and Stacey were playing their best, I thought, in that game as well, from what I've seen. So you sort of feel that it's just not quite there. It's not happening. The lack of leadership is an issue. I think more so central midfield. I've also got to point the finger at the strikers, right? Josh King went off yesterday, hamstring injury, allegedly. Not sure how long that's going to keep him out, but he's certainly going to be out in the next game. Right, who is going to be that centre forward? Callum came on yesterday. Speechless really. Anything to say about that performance? He just looked a bit disinterested, as he has done for much of the season. And he's going to be the man, I think, in position against West Ham. I mean, they're a team where he scored a sensational goal away last season, so he likes playing against them. Let's see if this kind of galvanises him.
I've got a feeling that's why he was probably rested for this game, with that match in mind. One thing I felt about our strikers, that they were playing so far apart. It was ridiculous. There were balls that were being played. I think Josh King flicked it on, but Callum Wilson was miles away from the ball. They were, there was no togetherness whatsoever. But even though they may be playing a formation that maybe doesn't fit the game, you've got to do the basics right. And there were times in the last match against Arsenal where Callum Wilson was trying to do little flicks in the first half, and it was just not coming off. Just need to get the ball under control, hold the ball up. But even when we did, Brighton was so strong. They were putting a foot in and they were winning it back. Callum Wilson just needs to work on the technical aspect of his game. He used to be great at holding the ball up, like really good, really strong. Josh King as well, but in the Arsenal match he gave it away on a number of occasions, and then there were times where he loitered around the edge of the box and you just thought, absolutely get rid of it, Josh. But it didn't happen. Solanke, I thought, I pull the trigger, man. Pull the trigger 5 years earlier than you actually do, because he seemed to wait way too long. And as Richard said on this email, we're missing the strikers running into the channels. Do you remember the promotion season when Callum Wilson bullied a decent Middlesbrough defence and was unplayable? He's done in the Premier League for a bit, but it seems like he's lost the ability to sort of run in those channels. I always remember those balls over the top from Charlie Daniels. Just at the time they seemed aimless, but like left-footed curling balls, Callum was always running into that channel. These days, it's just not happening at all.
We talked a few weeks ago about the team lacking that sort of togetherness, and Eddie having a man management job on. It feels to me, watching yesterday, that a lot of the players aren't talking to each other off the pitch, let alone on the pitch. And I don't know what is going on inside that dressing room. I'd love to be a fly on the wall, because there are some issues going on there. Whether it's the players with Eddie and the coaching team, whether it's the players with each other, whether it's the players unhappy with the system, whether it's the players thinking that they want to be playing for another club and don't really want to put it in anymore. It's a myriad of things, but they're not gelling as a unit at all. There were brief moments of excitement yesterday. The two times when Josh got behind their back four, but didn't finish. I mean, that's what Josh can do. He does run those channels and does cause problems. There were two moments from Solanke in the second half. One where he got brought down for what wasn't a penalty, but honestly, get your shot off first anyway. He had a chance to twice on that move. And then he played one in for Lewis Cook, who blazed over the bar, which was our sole effort on goal when we're chasing the game from 1-0 down, which is appalling anyway. So Solanke, he doesn't shoot enough. I felt generally we looked too easy to go down and try and get a penalty or a foul rather than take the chance yesterday, and that that is not the way that we're going to breed confidence amongst our strikers or in fact score any goals. We've just got to have more self-belief that we can take a shot and flip and score.
Yeah, I think going back to your previous point, I think the unity in the dressing room is could be a big factor in what's going on, because obviously Ryan Fraser's had these sort of contract negotiations that no one really knows what's happening. He's not exactly played his way into Arsenal pricking their ears up about him anymore. Nathan Ake, maybe he's going in January. Even Eddie Howe himself has been linked with other clubs, and it seems in a number of positions, even Lerma's being linked, and you think, oh my goodness, it's not a very stable environment, it seems. And even some of the fringe players like Jordan Ibe, no one really knows what's happening with him. I saw a photo on Twitter where there was a couple of kids, I can't remember who it was who tweeted it, but they took a picture of a couple of their kids where sort of Jordan Ibe looked like he was sort of crashing into their photo, which not the only time he's crashed this year, hey. It's you just kind of think, what's happening with him? There's a lot of things that don't seem to be right at the moment, and maybe it's just bad timing. I'm not too sure what it is. One thing that is an interesting point, though, that has been made, even though we're getting beaten a lot, we're not conceding as many. I mean, it seems gone are the days whereby we're losing 4-0 and 5-0, which seem to be a regular thing. Now it's just the sort of 1-0s and 2-0s. So does that indicate that maybe defensively we have improved and it's just our attacking flair that's completely gone?
I think defensively we have improved. I think Ramsdale made some good saves again yesterday to help keep the score down, and we didn't have that goalkeeping stability. He's been consistent. If anybody's been consistent, Ramsdale, you can guarantee will pull off a few good saves. His distribution is a little bit haphazard. It was yesterday, but he's pretty good and brought a level of confidence to the back four, which I think has helped the back four. And considering the changes we've had in the back four, they're doing pretty well, actually. However, you're going to have to score more than one goal to win any Premier League game, and in many games, because the other side is that good, you've got to score 2 to get a point sometimes. And yesterday was one of those days. We never really looked like scoring, even when we're 1-0 down, let alone scoring 2, which we would have needed to get a point. It's not clicking. There is a case for bringing back Sam Surridge, I would say. Get somebody who's actually got a point to prove and a reputation to prove. Get him in the team. Bring him off the bench. I think there's an argument for getting Jermaine Defoe back if that's at all possible. Somebody who can actually do a bit of magic. That's what we're missing. We don't have that player who can do something special at the moment. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's funny because back a couple of seasons ago, where Lewis Cook was barely being used and everyone was clamouring for him, when he comes off the bench now, he's not the same player, and he's not able to create the sort of chances like he used to. And so, yes, he does spray these wonderful balls left and right every so often, but he was used to sort of bursting through players. I remember seeing his show reel or whatever it was from they did AFCB TV did an every touch sequence from one of the matches that he played a couple of seasons ago. I think it was against Leicester, where he just looked amazing, and he was beating players, bombing forward, and you're kind of thinking, what's going to happen with his England career? You're starting to think, well, will he really have a chance anymore? Not too sure, but his he didn't exactly pull up any trees when he came on, and most of us were wanting Lerma, but obviously this hamstring thing was one of the reasons why he wasn't. It just seems that creating chances at the moment is clearly a problem. Yeah, as I said, Lewis Cook used to be that one to unlock the defences, but surely he needs to be played in his best position and persevered with. Jefferson Lerma has played in his role and he's fulfilled it admirably so far. We just seem to have a stubbornness of playing players where they probably shouldn't be playing. Case in point, Harry Wilson as well.
Yeah, Can't disagree with that. I think Eddie's got to just have a look at himself. This is a time for a big reset. Important games coming up. Yesterday is not acceptable. He knows it. The players know it from Cookie's interview. They know it. The fans certainly do know it. And we have to get points the next 5 games.
Yeah.
That means if you've got to pull everybody together and say, right, this is my starting 11. This is the way we're going to play. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to score goals. This is what I want you to do. And be absolutely clear about that. No more of this muddled thinking that we've had. No more of this inability for the players to motivate themselves. Everybody should be leaving nothing out there on the pitch every game, because it matters. We got to this place by hard work, imagination, creativity, scoring lots of goals, and we've totally lost that essence of what the team's been about the last few years. It's really frustrating, but we were talking before the season started about this being our best, strongest, deepest, most exciting squad ever. So, right, we're looking up, we're not looking down. The players have to have a focus of what is the goal, where are we going to be for this season, what is it that we actually want to achieve. And I think they're going to throw the game against Luton. We're going to lose that. No way we're going to even bother turning up for that. We'll probably play under 21s, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, I think, you're right.
Everything's got to be about staying in the Premier League and proving that we should be the side being talked about, like the Sheffield Uniteds, the overachievers, the Wolves, who have done amazingly the last few games against some of the best teams in the league. You know, they're no better funded than we are they? I don't think so. You know, we've got a squad that's equally as valuable as a lot of those sides bubbling under the top 6.
Yeah,
that's where we should be.
Can I run something past you quickly? May 2015, teams promoted from the Championship: Watford, Bournemouth, and Norwich City. Scary. Could those be the 3?
Villa are looking precarious, I would say, and albeit West Ham have just sacked Pellegrino, but they are looking iffy as well. And you look at the table, it is very close. Burnley are no great team.
No.
Newcastle lost yesterday. They can be beaten. There's a number of sides that can go on a run of 4 or 5 defeats like we've just gone on and fall into that relegation zone. So it's not over by a long way.
No,
and I think
exactly.
Watford are more than likely to stay up. I think Pearson's got them playing. They've got 2 results, and look at the momentum. In fact, their Liverpool performance was the one that kick-started them. So it just takes a bit of momentum. That's what we need.
I mean, we've been absolutely shocking so far, had so many defeats in a row, and if it continues, we've got to hold our hands up and say we were not good, good enough for the Premier League. If we manage to somehow get a win every now and then that sort of boosts us or keeps us like 16th, 17th, then that can be considered incredible, given how poor we are. But it surely cannot continue for so long. But obviously what we don't have on our side is this sort of togetherness that we seem to always have. Together everything is possible, always moving forward together, all these slogans that they've got, and you feel, well, we have got a decimated squad. But one thing I've got to say is one of the people who'll be feeling it the most will be Eddie Howe. There are managers who have no affinity with the club. They're clubs that will be in relegation positions throughout the football pyramid. And if they get sacked, it's no skin off their nose. It doesn't really matter. But for Eddie, there is huge amounts riding on this. Maybe even the future of the club itself. This whole training facility that we've got, the 38 million. Any thoughts of a new stadium I'm sure are just a pipe dream at the moment. But this, training facility, it is getting built and it will cost money. And Eddie Howe will be feeling the pressure more than anyone, and he will be looking to find ways. So I think there are a lot of disingenuous comments on Facebook forums and stuff where people are saying Eddie out, but the club's built around him. He has to stay. He has to get the job done. History tells us that he's done it before and he'll do it again. And there have been awful times where people have been mentioning the R word. They've been mentioning Eddie out in previous seasons, but he's always turned it around and we've done really well. So I trust that he can do it again. But what we haven't, of course, got on our side is a full squad to choose from, hence the January transfer window. You just wonder how much faith the board are going to put in him to spend good money. Hopefully we won't be signing anyone from Liverpool because obviously they've not been doing so well for us, but yeah, he will be feeling the pressure more than most. And Michael said an interesting thing actually the other day on last week's podcast. I think I said, what would be the scenario where Eddie Howe will leave? Because you've got Everton wanting people like Ancelotti, who they've now got. I know that Benitez was linked with West Ham, but they've gone now for old hand David Moyes by the looks of it. And what would his next step be? And he said probably if he's being shown his cards. I would hope that's not the way he leaves Bournemouth after all he's done. There are a Facebook group where people are calling Eddie out. Facebook Loud and Proud, which is this group which is moderated by a couple of guys. One of them's over in the pond, across the pond, and he's David, and he's a nice guy. But the other lad is some teenager who said, if anyone has the audacity to say that Eddie should stay, you're being banned from the forum. I mean, as a moderator, what kind of lad says that? Yeah, I mean, he's just obviously very frustrated. James, his name is, and yeah, being a bit of an idiot there, because constructive conversation is what's needed. We don't need this divide amongst our supporters. We're all frustrated. We need to come up with some constructive dialogue to all unite. I'm sure we will do, ahead of West Ham, but how long do we give Eddie Howe? Sean said we'll stick with him even if we're relegated. What's your thoughts?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? You know that everybody's got an opinion, and I don't dispute that any of those Facebook fans don't care as passionately about the club as we do. Everybody cares. We're all frustrated. Yeah. Lots of people yesterday that we talked to were disparaging about Eddie tactically, and I think that's an issue. I think lots of people were saying the players don't look up for it. Again, that's the manager's job to get the players up for it in the right frame of mind. However, it's only 3 games ago we beat Chelsea. Yeah, you could sense that togetherness was there. The players really wanted that victory. They got that victory. What's the difference between that performance and yesterday's performance?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's 3 games. We can do it. We've got it within ourselves to do it. The coaches and the management team have got it within themselves to pull out that sort of motivation and performance from the squad. Right, so Eddie is obviously under pressure. He's doubting himself, I think. He's not clearly understanding what his right decisions should be. And he's probably thinking, you know what, maybe I'm not up to this. Maybe I'll jack it in. I think that's possibly a more likely scenario than him getting sacked. It's just that he cares so much about the club, but is he really getting the best out of the players on a consistent level? He must find it incredibly frustrating. And if he does look at himself, he's a great student of the game. I'm sure that he can turn this round. Yeah. I have utter faith that he can turn this round, and we will be okay by the end of this season. I think anything that avoids relegation will be a plus. I think there will still be a disappointment considering the level that we believe the squad is at. You've also got to ask, right, sacking the manager, it's an easy solution, but who the hell are you going to get? Who's going to replace Eddie and be any more successful? Mark Hughes? Yeah. No. Sam Allardyce? No. The guy who's just got the bullet from Everton? Absolutely no chance. The guy who's just got the bullet from Watford? No way.
Yeah. We've got to remember that Eddie Howe, if he was to be shown his cards, he has experience of getting Bournemouth promoted throughout every league. League 2, League 1, Championship. So if a new manager came along and didn't do the job, then we'd be in a worse position for it, because we would have someone that perhaps doesn't know the club as well as Eddie does, and maybe not have that experience of promotion. I've got to say, like, as a podcast, I've got my own personal opinion. I'm more than happy to represent whatever opinions fans say. So by all means, let us know what you think. But I think it's right to question Eddie Howe, and it's right to talk about the pressure that he's under. But to say Eddie out, I think, is a little bit premature and a little bit hasty. And I don't want to be patronising or disparaging, but it does seem to be younger fans that seem to be saying that. There are a few older ones that have said that, but I don't know how long they've been supporting the club, and it'd be patronising for me to say that they're Johnny-come-latelys or anything like that. One thing we'll just close on is Norwich City. When they played, I think it was Spurs at the weekend, I think I saw a tweet from one of their players who said, unfortunately, we came up short tonight, but we left everything out on the... Yeah, I think the phrase was, we left everything out on the pitch. Not one Bournemouth player could say that about yesterday at all, did they? Because we didn't play like a team that left everything out there, and we don't even start the games like we mean it either.
Totally agree. It was so lacklustre from start to finish yesterday. That is really disappointing. And it's a day and a half's preparation. They were tired. I'm not going to make excuses, because it was a 6-pointer. That was a cup final yesterday, and also Brighton are flaky. If we get at them and score first, we could have won that game. But even if we'd have pulled level, it felt like there was a bounce after the VAR decision that that's the psychological boost we needed to go at them and get that goal while they're sort of thinking they should be 2-0 up. But there was nothing there, and what we have to do is pull together. We've got to get back on track. We've got to remember what we did against Chelsea, and we've got to put in that level of performance against West Ham, because they'll feel motivated to put on a job for the new manager or the manager coming in. And the fans will probably be a bit relieved that Pellegrino's gone. Now, we have to recognise that. I mean, honestly, I've lost count of the number of times that a manager's got fired just before we play them next game. It's doing my head in. Yeah. We seem to be the victims of all these new manager bounces as well. But we've got to pull it together. We've got to go out there and deliver a performance that will make the fans proud, make the manager proud, and give us hope. Yeah, completely concur with that. I'm still feeling distraught, mate, just going over that. But we've done it now. We've covered it. Thanks very much, Jeff, as always, for that. Cheers. Thanks, Sam. And leave your comments below. Where do we go from here? Let us know your thoughts, and roll on West Ham, eh? Come on, you Cherries. Yeah, come on, Cherries.